Hello everyone, Michi here, your host and producer. Today I'm going to sit down and talk to a couple, Patrick Flynn and Amy Tepper. They are co-founders of Tepper and Flynn. They help school leaders build better feedback, stronger instructional leadership, and cultures of learning that actually improve teaching. They are also thinking deeply about AI, not as a shortcut, but as something that should strengthen human expertise, not replace it. Amy and Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
You know what? I'm excited to have a couple here. And I understand you are partners in crime. So to say, you are partners in life, but also in business.
Yeah.
But before we dive in, I would like you to put a pin on the map for me. Where do we find you? Where do you live? And starting with Amy and then Patrick, describe yourself using 3 words.
So the pin today, because we are in the same house, is the shoreline in Connecticut. Sometimes that pin is moving, and that's part of our story. And our pin sometimes is in Florida as well.
Okay. So you have several homes.
Yeah.
We move around.
You move around. That's fascinating. So, okay. So starting again with you, Amy, 3 words describing yourself.
Well, it's an interesting question because you split us up to ask that question.
Yeah.
And we went through this brand study because Patrick and I were individuals and we understood ourselves as individual consultants, but then we wanted to, and we worked together, and then we wanted to better understand who were we together. So I'd love to share for my words. I'd love to share how the blended words came together as a duo, because we had to really recognize that. And so we went through this archetypal kind of study where we had cards, and we had this huge pack of cards on the table, and we spent days, remember, Patrick? Who are we? And the 3 cards that rose to the top that was then confirmed as we went out and our team did studies of our clients. We are seekers, so we are constantly learning. We are mentors. We are teachers by trade. That makes such a natural fit to then become teachers of teachers of teachers. And then our favorite that rose to the top was warrior. And we are warriors because we are constantly working to affect real transformational change. It drives us. So those 3 things, I think, when I think about myself, those absolutely are who I am every day. And so Patrick, you can add if you have your own 3, but that was such a wonderful experience to name who we are as a team.
Yeah. And I wouldn't add much more to that other than, that was so much rooted in, for both of us, just a desire to be in a servant leadership all the time, just in service to others. And I think the all the time really came out with the level of persistence that is necessary to be able to develop the type of coaching models and supports for schools, especially school systems, that are difficult to change or help to transform. So that persistence, that service that we always felt we had to a school system, it came out in those 3 words really well.
Wow. Get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because I'm trained by Carolyn Mays as a certified archetypal interpreter.
Oh my gosh.
So when you said seekers, is that's one of my archetypes that I choose for myself. So seekers, mentors, warriors. Welcome. Okay, if I'm going to start with you, Patrick, then looking back in your life, is there something that childhood, maybe all the way back there, that has been such an impactful situation, memory, or experience that is part of who you are today?
Most certainly. And I'll bring right back to the servant leadership. I think it's always been something that has, from the day I became a teacher to this moment today, servant leadership has always been at the forefront. And I think I have to say that the honest, most direct reason why that occurred for me is my dad. Just endless drive to be someone who was in service to others. Even in the smallest of ways to the most profound of ways. I think he instilled in me that idea that we are here to support each other. And that from my perspective has been everything that I can say I honestly framed for myself.
And you, Amy?
Well, I knew Patrick's dad and I love that we brought him into this conversation and made him present with us. I think a funny short story that we learned about, a commonality that we had in our own childhood, was that we both had paper routes. We both were on the street at 11 years old. Mine was a morning paper route with jobs.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, is unheard of. No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Children are out on the street putting papers in people's homes and then collecting money for those. I feel like when we started to plan our talk with you, we really stopped and said, we were entrepreneurs at 11.
Yeah.
And then you meet people as you go through life, because not everyone had a paper route, but it's such a unique personality. And I think when I look at my roots, my mother did not get up and drive me. I grew up in Connecticut. It was I had the morning paper route that I was doing in the before school. And so
Always
I think
along too.
I think that like the grit and work ethic started in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one too as a child. Yeah.
Crazy.
And yeah, and yeah, no, my mom didn't either. You know, you go out there, you do your job, and so I totally relate to what you're
Amazing.
saying. So this is a great segue for us to dive into what you do today. Then,
Well,
what
I
is
mean,
it that you
our
do?
primary service is to public schools, and it has always been a focus on providing supports inside public schools. We have 2 books on the topic of feedback, so that does create kind of a centerpiece to how we bring ourselves into the conversation with schools. And they really evolved from the lens of a desire to create better feedback for teachers. It really was at the heart of everything. So because that was the heart of how we created our books, our organization, a lot of the frameworks that we've designed, we bring those frameworks to schools to help them start to build systems and structures that will allow them to deliver better feedback to teachers. But those systems and structures are very comprehensive in nature. So it's not just the way in which I sit across from someone and give feedback. There are so many other variables that intersect and play with that, whether or not there's coherent frameworks or systems in place, whether or not you have other strategies for people to talk with one another, who's giving feedback, how do you extend those things? Those are so many, there's so many complexities to making sure that the system will work, that becomes a part of our structures and supports for our public schools.
Okay, so I have 2 questions around that. So you speak of feedback. What type of feedback are we talking about? And also, how did this come about? Were you teachers first yourself, and then, there's something broken here. We need to,
I'll
take
let
the
Amy
leap and
respond.
become
I'll let
entrepreneur.
that one.
Yes, there is something broken. Interestingly, I was a teacher. Patrick was a teacher. We did not know each other. I was an administrator. I then needed to come up to Connecticut and needed a job, needed to take care of my mother. And Patrick hired me without ever meeting me. Thank goodness.
It was a really interesting resume.
Yeah.
So we were career educators, but I joined Patrick's team because Patrick understood what was happening. And Patrick, I'll have you speak to that part. Patrick understood what was happening in the change in how we were evaluating and supervising teachers required a change in how we trained and supported administrators to actually engage in that work. But what makes us different, and we have our catchphrases from our titles of our book, is that we call our feedback learner-focused feedback that feeds forward. Because originally, when we started the process, we wanted to call it the feedback crisis, because we recognized very quickly in the work that teachers were not receiving feedback. I was on a call just the other day, and he said, I never got feedback like you're describing. They're not getting feedback they can use, which diminishes trust in your leader and your supervisor. And so our publisher said we could not call it a crisis. It was too negative. So it's called feedback to feed forward. But Patrick, if you want to speak about what was happening at the time, because we joined forces in 2013, but Patrick was already out owning his own business consulting firm, addressing the needs.
Yeah. So Race to the Top was one of the initial initiatives that really shifted the way in which evaluation was happening in schools. And while it was understandably designed to be an accountability structure, how do we hold people accountable for raising the level of expectations and performance in our schools? What it really quickly became was the easiest way to describe it was a gotcha of how do we check boxes to say whether or not someone's doing a job or not. And that's really not the fundamental nature of effective, what we describe in our books as effective feedback.
No.
Effective feedback is, as Amy started to point out, twofold. It's maybe threefold, but I'll say effective feedback is that feedback that isn't just a summary of what happened in an experience. It's an analysis of what happened that allows a teacher to be able to see and recognize in either on paper or through a conversation the impact they had. Positive, negative, indifferent, it doesn't matter. It's I understand now the impact that I have, and ultimately I can do something to change that practice. Right? So those three fundamental elements were missing when Race to the Top created the systems and structures really from the federal government all the way down. And so the way in which states were responding, churches were responding was very compliant. And by 2016, almost 6 years of being in the work, I would say I just grew tired of watching that happen. And Amy was right alongside me during those 3 years of experiencing the same thing of we just grew tired of that compliant structure behind something that was as valuable and as important as feedback could be for people. And that's when we joined forces and created Tepper and Flynn and created the company that said, we're going to change our focus and our mission will be to change the way in which a teacher receives feedback. So,
yeah. I mean, this is so interesting. I mean, you serve teachers and the education sector, but what you're talking about to me, to my ears, sounds very useful and applicable for leaders in general. They have teams. And do you ever have clients like that outside the educational system?
Yeah, it's interesting. We have always wanted to, I would say, though we haven't necessarily pushed into it. We haven't, tried to market or structure ourselves to go into the private sector or into corporate America. But we agree with you that almost all of the aspects of our systems and our frameworks are well aligned to the needs that are sitting inside there. We have, of course, plenty of friends who are, since we're in Connecticut, insurance industry is here. So we've talked often with people as an example industry, and they constantly come back to, wow, my performance evaluation system it's meaningless. And that hurts us because that's what we really are trying to change is, well, performance management system should be about you getting to a point where you feel like you're getting information that's helping you to do your job better, because that's ultimately what's going to create, better success for you, better success for the organization. And that's what is really, that's the gap that I think our frameworks meet. So, well, who knows, maybe the podcast will help us to get some other people involved.
Yeah, because what I reacted to very much was not just a summary of this didn't work and that worked and this didn't work, but understanding the experience of it. Oh my God, that is a human necessity, I think.
We are familiar with Albert Bandura's research, but even Pygmalion and My Fair Lady, right? The things that we change are the things that we can understand why they're happening, how they're happening, and our belief behind it is fundamental. So feedback really has to get into that niche, or it's not really going to have the impact.
Yeah. And so, as you know, this show is about entrepreneurs, and we have a conversation about where they're growing towards and the messy middle of all that. So for you, Tepper and Flynn, what's you say you want to scale significantly, right? What are you trying to build over the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Amy?
I can say one, because the past year, a little more than a year, has been a really deep dive into AI. And I think that the rapid change that we experience on a daily basis, like the updates you get, Claude can do this today. Claude can do this today. I don't even know how to make statements about 3 years from now. I'm making statements that I think are true 6 months from now because of the rapid change. What COVID had a significant influence, if we're talking about entrepreneurship over the time COVID, and I don't know if anyone has brought that into the conversation, nearly tipped everybody over. And so we had to reimagine ourselves and the fact that we went to a school for 6 hours a day, and that was no longer an option. We went through our lay on the couch, like, what are we doing? Oh no, we don't have a plan B. We're really having to pivot and reimagine how do we support adult learning that will reach out into a classroom and impact students in a completely new way. We're in that same exact place and have been for the past year. So what we recognized was that we were building beautiful online courses. We used to have 6-hour days in schools, not a reality anymore. We were building these beautiful long-term courses, just not something that an adult can, especially in a school, can engage in. So last year we started to try to pin down these bites of resources and products. And then the past year has really been about how do we replicate the best parts of ourselves using the automation of AI. So how do I take all of this content and knowledge and the books on the shelf and how do I take all of that, get it into a system that then allows an administrator to have access to us at any time based on anything they need? So one of the greatest compliments we've had, we were just at an assistant superintendent now who knew us 10 years ago. And she said, I still hear your voice in my head when I go into a classroom. That sticks. So we wanted to create something that would replicate that experience and put a tool and the learning in their hands immediately. We have to really reimagine how adults are going to learn and grow and maximize this incredible thing that has
the technology.
Like it's it. This is it.
From our perspective, that's the definition of entrepreneurship. That's the key that is being successful. To being successful is the ability to be agile enough to say, here's where we are. Where we are is good, but where we know the future is going, we need to be able to adapt to it. And I think I think that goes full circle back to our 3 words.
I
right?
was just thinking that.
Right. It's because we are seekers. It's because we will remain persistent and be in service.
I'm an AI warrior.
Yeah.
I dream about it now.
Yeah.
I want to share too, Patrick. I was just, because we share a brain. I was thinking about the mentor side.
You combined our second brain.
The cool thing, because we're teachers, so we have this driving force of we need to reimagine what learning is going to look like for an adult so that it's just in time and it's not like, it's funny. I grapple with adults need choice, but our AI partner said, no, tell them what to do. Use the AI to make the recommendation. Like the adults need to be told. We grapple with that. But the other side is that we have this incredibly compelling drive to ensure that we teach leaders about AI and we craft tools that will not allow AI to push in and overtake the required human side of the jobs. So we're coming into this pivot with those 2. So that's that mentor side, right, of us.
Yeah.
That just like we're doing in our classrooms, where kids are just going into ChatGPT, we're not teaching them the power of it. We're just reading studies that say it's robbing your critical thinking, right? So we must teach the adults how to maximize but maintain the professional judgment and human insight. And how do we do that?
Yeah.
And then how do we create tools that support both the maximization and then the injection of all that critical human stuff?
So am I correct then to what I hear is your growth focus is to create a tool that helps teachers, maybe other entrepreneurs, who knows, but to utilize and leverage AI sustainable, but also in a kind of ethical way?
Yeah.
So it's not for you about growing a bigger team or maybe visibility. You have to get people out there to understand what you're doing now, the marketing, the positioning. But the focus, as I understand it, is to develop that tool and make that marketable, so to say.
Yes, I think too, another skill that I've come to recognize in myself is that it's cold. I've been in Connecticut. So I've been inside just in my world of AI. And we go out to schools and we're frequently at schools. And I asked a team the other day, like, where are you on a 1 to 5? If that 5 is ChatGPT or, AI is a part of your life every day. 1 is you're scared you haven't touched it. They were 1s and 2s. So we have to really even think about it. We're year 3, of AI. I recognized in myself that I can teach other people. I've been doing this thing called vibe coding. So in 100 days, my learning is exponential. I understand vocabulary I did not understand 100 days ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a skill I now bring to other people, entrepreneurs who want to build an app. You can build an app tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mine just grew into this massive thing.
I
But I
think
think that's an important other skill that we
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from a business perspective, that is as much on our mind as is the creation of our coaching tools and our support tools to
Mm.
take all our frameworks and make sure that we can bring to on scale, bring people the knowledge and the frameworks and the supports that
Mhm.
have been successful with those clients that we've had. We want that. But we also see that other line of potential support with other entrepreneurs, with other businesses who really want to do the same thing, who want to recognize how AI can integrate and support them. But that's something that we're also talking about moving forward with.
Wow, this is interesting. I use AI a lot, and we do that also here at Mirasee, almost at scale now. But so it's, yeah, for sure, it's here to stay. But for you then, where is your biggest challenge as business owners?
I would say probably the focus is on distribution.
Mm.
In the education field, you find yourself sitting inside a competitive market of very large organizations and associations that have had 50 to 75 years of development time. We're essentially a 16-year-old company that who has had its footprint in certain regions and in several states, but that distribution becomes probably the focus or the biggest challenge. Being able to reach out, let people know what is available, and really bring to life how that can support them. And really, because once again of our three archetypes, right, is to be able to solve problems for them, to be able to help them, once again, that service orientation of we want to help you to be able to not only be more effective at it, but to do it in a way that keeps you well and it keeps you from day to day, not leaving every single day drained emotionally, physically, and in every other way, which is, that burnout is very real. So I think distribution would probably be the very direct answer to that question. That's our biggest challenge always.
Do you have idea how to solve that?
Well, I will say that we have started.
I'm laughing because
I know we are laughing because we it's 16 years in and we're saying, geez, we probably should have caught up on this earlier. It's one of those things. And as entrepreneurs, in general, you have to be able to look back and forget the past, recognize what the future is,
and not beat yourself up. Like, why did we not do this?
Didn't we not do that
when we were home in the living room? Why?
When you answer that question and then move on, right, is how it really works. I'm kind of a true Stoic philosophy of, okay, let's not dwell there, let's dwell here. But ultimately, we are building our brand through social media now. We've started to really launch into, we've got a YouTube channel, which we're engaging very actively in increasing our video presence and trying to be thought leaders. Yeah. We leverage social media in ways that will help support that distribution in a organic way. Just trying to get the voice out there. And if it clicks with you, great. Then come see us at LinkedIn and see how credible we actually are. And then reach out and we'll go from there. I would say our distribution up to this point, or our marketing up to this point as a team, has always been relationally driven. We have always been about we form really good relationships. We tend not to be out of those relationships in short time. In other words, we tend to be in prolonged relationships with districts and with schools and with people who then move from place to place or become, positions, and that then we enter into new relationships in new situations. So we've really, I don't want to say we haven't had to market but we've been very happy with the growth that we've had because we've ultimately been able to fulfill the relationships that we've had. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it sounds like you're a very unique position in terms of, AI is here to stay. There are governments. I live in Sweden, so we have the European GDPR kind of thing. And what about AI and how it's all that kind of that education, governments, they all talk about this, the policies. But your service seems, to my ears anyway, will be more and more in demand in that sense.
Yeah.
And not just the feedback thing, but also the AI comfortability. You mentioned, Amy, that you just had a conversation with someone that, they're at 1 or 2 in terms of how much they use. Much is probably fear-based.
For sure.
Mhm.
And not necessarily know where to start. We have the Gen Zs of the world and younger that are digital native and kind of showing parents and grandparents how to navigate almost their mobile phone. And here comes a. So you deliver something that would really be high trust kind of thing. That's you come across as to me. Would that be something difficult to scale? I mean, AI losing that high trust that you as people, as human, stand for.
I don't know if it will, because of the way in which we are designing and marketing towards the use of AI. I think Amy brought up the earlier point that what we really want to do is build capacity for an AI literacy among the people who implement or utilize that AI or our AI. But what we also have built within the AI is all of what we have fundamentally driven our work from, which is you need to be building cultures of learning and trust within institutions and organizations. So I guess the AI is almost being informed with trust at the forefront.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you layer in the idea that then you're going to make sure that you're never going to be so reliant on even our AI, right? And our approach to utilizing it, because we're almost going to demand that human insight and that professional judgment to be a part of it.
I have to share, Patrick, because I think it's the best work I've ever done, to be honest. This massive, like the brain power that it requires to backwards design something and to inform a model. So I'm informing our LLM to act and think like us, and to put those exact guardrails that Patrick's talking about. So I spent a week working on getting it to get the right response. So if an administrator comes in and tries to complain about a teacher and how they're receiving feedback, I used words like defensive, like the teacher's defensive, it is going to put it right back on the principal. So it's not going to allow the principal it's going to challenge, yes, but have you built a relationship? Yes, but are you doing this?
Yeah.
Another guardrail is that I don't want it to write feedback in certain places. It's going to force you to have to think. And then, so I can create guardrails, and I don't think I really understood how bots are informed. Patrick always says cool beans. That's his slang, like cool beans. I can get the bot to say that.
Yeah. Cool beans.
We want them to hear our voices. So,
and I just want to add, one of the brand studies steps is that they go out and they talk to clients. And as Patrick said, we have some clients we've been with now 10 years. And and they said, and we've grown with them, and then they get new administrators. And they said it was like having old college friends come back every time we came back to their districts or schools. And that thrilled us, because we feel like that. When you're a coach, you life coach as well. Yes, I'm about like, let's get better at this, but I have a school tomorrow, and I know they want to tell me about some of the trials and tribulations before we get into classrooms. And I think that human side is what we want to continue to maintain. And I think the social media puts our faces and our personalities and that spirit that we have attached to this new bot-driven product. I mean, it's not going to work for us all the way around, but that's our theory.
You have a good vibe for sure. So the more, the better. I think that you are the faces, because you are, and the founders and creators of this. But what has been the hardest thing for you to learn? I mean, you are seasoned entrepreneurs, but we have younger entrepreneurs in the audience, and younger, I mean, in terms of how many years they've been an entrepreneur. When you look back in your years, what has been the hardest part for each one of you to wrap your head around as a business person?
Patrick?
Well, I can start with being able to sit in some of the discomfort that comes with being an entrepreneur. I would say early on, I struggled often with failure or not achieving the milestone or the benchmark or anything like that. And I think that was a difficult spot for me to be in. I would say, as you just described me as seasoned, as my age gets higher and higher, I do realize that I'm able to sit in that discomfort of a situation, not define failure as failure, but define failure as a lesson. I think fundamentally, it's at the heart of being a successful businessman or entrepreneur. I mean, heart of heart, we are educators and we're practitioners, but we run a business.
Yeah.
To understand some of those fundamentals. And I would say that probably was the most important fundamental learning for me as an entrepreneur was, yeah, it's not going to happen successfully all the time. And you got to be ready. You got to be ready for that. You really do have to be ready for that because we came out with just so much excitement and information that we knew could help people. And because we're so rooted in that service, when it doesn't always help somebody or they don't receive it the way you really wanted them to receive it, it's got to come back to, well, what didn't happen for that person? What's the receiver really need here? And how do I become agile enough to be able to support them in that process? And I think that if I was talking to, and we do this, by the way, all the time, because we help a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm getting out of teaching or principalship. I'm going to go in and be a consultant. It's like, great. Let's talk about how to make that transition. That I think is probably the biggest conversation.
Yeah. And for you, Amy?
I definitely think, and it's the paper route days. It's the grit, right? Like it's the believing in what we do, in our expertise enough to hang in there in COVID and pivot. We're in a similar place right now. We believe so much in what we have and what we can offer that we are going to grind and learn exponentially in the last 12 months. I think too, the grit comes from similarly to like failures. It's really interesting now. I thought things were failures all along. Like I created these courses and people weren't as interested. Like, what have I done? I created this product. I built this really cool store last summer and like one school bought everything, but then it was like not as warm over like, what have I done? And then I realized, so it feels like these failures that you're in, like, and you have to have that grit to keep reimagining and listening and pivoting, right? But then I recognized as I'm now in AI, all of that stuff that I built, especially over the last 5 years and that Patrick and I built with the books, all of it is now being broken apart for the best parts. So like I can take coursework language and build that into a bot's voice. So I think it's give it time because not all failures are the failures that you think they are.
No, exactly. This evolvement. Constantly evolution of things. But since you're a couple as well, and you just earlier, Patrick mentioned, burnout is real. How do you keep yourself sane and not always
Who
talking
says I'm
business?
sane?
No, well, I'm trying to be kind here, people.
We're a little nuts, yes.
No, I think there's really two things I would say. One is we're fairly mobile people in the sense that, we've created a situation for the business where we are remote so that, it has its advantages to be able to say, we can be here on the Connecticut shoreline or we can go down to Florida, to be able to be down there and do some work. So we could sit at a coffee shop and work for a couple hours and just connect in that way to be able to do it. But I think we set pretty decent boundaries for ourselves in regards to work and work time. Amy does not. It's one of those situations where I think there is a balance that's struck between the two of us to be able to support each other. And I think we just have a lot of fun with each other too. We have evolved in a way that allows us to be able to engage from day to day without over routinizing everything. And I think that's, to me, it's one of the more important life lessons I've had is that, and probably, quite frankly, I'll go all the way back to like what really drove me towards entrepreneurship. It's because that much routine, that much structure, that much oversight probably was not going to do well for my personality. I needed to be able to have some flexibility and some ways to really bring myself truly and completely and authentically into the work that I do in order to meet my purpose. So,
yeah. Oh, I just have one sort of last question for you, both of you. So let's zoom out then. As I said, this is a show called Making It, and we usually talk about it as a destination, right? So, but at this point in your life and your business, what does making it mean to you?
and you want to go first?
Interestingly, it's an interesting question. When I met Patrick, it was a short-term prospect. I was taking care of my mother, lost my mother, was going to return back to Florida and start this other life. And a district hired me back. And I realized that, wait, this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I feel like it's not a destination. And that's that seeker part. And I was thinking about listening to you and Patrick talk about what keeps us from burning out. I was starting to burn out trying to fix a broken system. And that broken system is what we are providing for kids and what they're walking out with. I actually was really feeling that. But when I met Patrick and then I started to get going, I thought, this is a 5-year, I'm going to do this for 5 years. Here we are at 13 years. And so what has energized me and why I feel like making it is just something that's, I don't know if it's something I'm going to chase, or it's like making it is that I create something that absolutely transforms. So every time I get a chance and it's reinvigorated me, I can feel it, poor Patrick, because now I'm like, hey, let me tell you about what I built today for 16 hours. I've joined an AI entrepreneurial group of women with a social media influencer. It's 3,000 of nuts like me who will sit and then like they're much further ahead. So I feel like I'm rambling which is absolutely defining how I feel about making it. Is just like I created something, I produced something. It was highly transformational for somebody. Okay, let's do it again, but even better, which is leading to my weakness. We just had lunch with a partner who said, you must stop and let people try your tool. Constantly improving. Give it 30 days. Yeah. So maybe 2 more than you were thinking I would add to that.
I think for me, and as I define making it for myself, it may be a little more ego based. I get is that I do want to be understood as somebody who left a legacy of some sort of impact in education. I think, and as egotistical or ego based as that sounds, it's really coming from the servant orientation of, I just want to know that the commitment I've made, the work I've done has influenced people, has had an impact on people. And I think education in and of itself is the greatest opportunity. And and especially public schools themselves is the greatest opportunity to have impact on people. So I feel like that's where I'm hoping that at some point in my life, I can look back and truly understand and recognize and even have others let me know that I've had that legacy, that impact on them.
To me, it's you're making it every day with everything that you build. And while you're doing it, you're building the legacy. That is a beautiful. So before we wrap up, where can people find out about you? Where's the best way to connect with you? And
I think it's either through our social media, our YouTube channel. We have, we're on all the other social medias, LinkedIn profiles, etc. And our website is been updated, is being updated routinely to really support an understanding of who we are. And that's just tepperandflynn.com, tepperandflynn.com. I think the best way to really get to know whether or not you want to know more about us is to have this type of conversation. So book a demo and we'll just sit and have a conversation about what we really can do together.
Yeah, we're going to have those links in the show notes and down below here in YouTube. Amy and Patrick, thank you so much for coming. It was, I'm rooting for you. As a fellow seeker and mom, yes, what you're doing is important.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the show.
Yes, it was such a great honor. We've been watching these and It was fun to talk about things that, we don't get to talk about the business side and the entrepreneurial side and who we are to produce all this. So it was a fun conversation.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. And to you, our dear listeners, thanks for tuning in to this fascinating conversation. And I'll see you next time. And meanwhile, stay curious, keep building, and let me know where you're struggling or your thoughts are at in terms of business. Bye.
That's it for this episode of Making It. Thanks for watching or listening. I'm Danny Iny, the founder and CEO of Mirasee. We help coaches, consultants, and creators monetize their gifts. So if you think your expertise should be driving more income than it is, we help you bridge that gap. We do this because we believe ethical and impactful businesses can change the world for the better. This show helps you do exactly that. And if you want to learn even more, you can check out our business education programs and online community at mirasee.com.